run-down apartment, a mother trembles as she counts her last coins to buy a single birthday cupcake for her son. He blows out the only candle while rain lashes against the window. But instead of making a wish for himself, the boy turns his gaze across the street, where an elderly woman sits soaked, shivering from hunger and cold. He looks at the cupcake, looks at his mother, then clutches his entire birthday meal and runs straight into the rain. Unseen by them, a man in a luxury car parked nearby witnesses everything, and in that moment, their lives begin to change forever. Before we go back, let us know where you're watching from, and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The coins clinked against the metal tin, each sound marking another count in Sarah's head. 37, 38, 39. She sat at the wobbly kitchen table, her fingers trembling as she separated quarters from dimes from nickels. The overhead light flickered. She'd need to fix that bulb soon, but not today. Today, every penny had a purpose. $42.63. Sarah closed her eyes. It wasn't enough for what she'd imagined, but it would have to be. A chicken drumstick from the corner store cost $3. The cupcake with the little plastic ring on top, Noah had pointed at it last week through the bakery window, was $4.50. Mama! Noah's voice drifted from the corner where he sat cross-legged on the floor. Can I use the blue? She looked up. Her son held a stub of crayon between his small fingers, barely an inch long. The blue one. He always asked permission even for things that were his. Of course, baby. Noah's face lit up. He returned to his drawing, tongue poking out in concentration as he colored what looked like a lopsided cake. The crayons scattered around him were all like that, worn down to nubs collected from restaurant tables and donated boxes at the community center. Sarah scooped the coins back into the tin. The sound made Noah glance over. Is it enough? He asked. The question landed in her chest like a stone. How did he always know? It's perfect, she said, forcing brightness into her voice. More than enough for the best birthday dinner ever. Noah grinned, and that smile, God, that smile made every double shift worth it. Can we have the cupcake with the ring? Already on the list. Yes. He pumped his small fist in the air, then returned to his drawing with renewed energy. Sarah stood slipping the tin into her coat pocket. I'll be back in 20 minutes. You stay inside, okay? Don't open the door for anyone. I know, Mama. Noah didn't look up from his masterpiece. Not even if they say they have candy. That's my smart boy. The rain started while she was at the store. Sarah stood under the shop's awning grocery bag, clutched to her chest, watching the downpour turn the street into a river. The chicken drumstick inside was still warm. The cupcake sat in its clear plastic container, the little pink ring gleaming on top of the frosting. She'd splurged on a single candle, yellow with a number 6. The rain showed no sign of stopping. Sarah took a breath and ran. By the time she climbed the 3 flights to their apartment, her coat was soaked through and her teeth were chattering, but the grocery bag was dry, held tight against her body like a treasure. Noah met her at the door, eyes wide. Mama, you're all wet. Just a little rain. She kicked off her soggy shoes and set the bag on the counter. But guess what stayed completely dry? She pulled out the cupcake container with a flourish. Noah's gasp was everything. He pressed his hands against the plastic, staring at the pink ring like it was made of diamonds. It's so pretty. The prettiest one they had. Sarah grabbed a dish towel and dried her hair. Now go wash your hands. Birthday dinner is about to be served. While Noah scrubbed his hands in the bathroom sink, she could hear him singing to himself. Sarah arranged everything on their one good plate. 3 boiled potatoes from yesterday. The chicken drumstick still warm. She'd managed to buy a small container of gravy and she drizzled it over the potatoes, making them glisten. The cupcake went on a smaller plate, the yellow candle stuck firmly in its center. Okay, birthday boy, Sarah called. Come sit. Noah scrambled into his chair, eyes locked on the food. Sarah saw him swallow hard, and she knew he was hungry. They'd split a peanut butter sandwich for lunch, thin on the peanut butter, because the jar was almost empty. She lit the candle with their last match. Happy birthday to you. Sarah's voice cracked on the first note. She steadied it, smiled wider. Happy birthday to you. Noah watched the flame dance, his face glowing in its light. Happy birthday, dear Noah. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Happy birthday to you. Make a wish, baby. Noah closed his eyes tight, his whole face scrunching with concentration. Sarah wondered what a 6-year-old boy wished for. Toys, probably. Maybe a bike like the ones the kids rode in the park. Maybe Noah's eyes opened, but he didn't blow out the candle. Instead, he turned to look at the window. The rain hammered against the glass, streaking down in sheets. Through the blur, Sarah could barely make out the building across the street. "Mama," Noah said quietly, "there's someone out there." Sarah followed his gaze. At first, she saw nothing but rain and the dim glow of streetlights. Then she spotted an elderly woman sitting on the stoop across the street, hunched under the building's narrow overhang. Even from here, Sarah could see she was soaked. The woman's shoulders shook. "She's cold," Noah whispered. "Noah, honey, blow out your candle before the wax." "Is she hungry?" Sarah's heart clenched. She looked at her son, then at the woman, then at the single cupcake between them. "I don't know, baby." "Probably." Noah stared at the cupcake. The candle wax was starting to drip onto the frosting. He reached out and touched the plastic ring, turning it so it caught the light. "Noah, what are you?" "Mama." He looked up at her and his eyes were too old for 6, too understanding. "Today's my birthday." "I know, sweetheart. And birthdays are for wishes, right?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. Noah's small hand closed around hers. I wish we could help her." The words hung in the air between them. Sarah felt something break open in her chest, part pain, part pride so fierce it stole her breath. "Noah, this is your birthday. This is your dinner, your cupcake." Her voice came out rough. "It's the only one I could." "I know." Noah squeezed her hand tighter. "But Mama, you always say we share what we have, even when it's not much." Tears burned Sarah's eyes. "I say that about regular things, not about birthday cupcakes." "Why not?" Such a simple question. Such an impossible answer. Sarah looked at the food on the table. A handful of potatoes, one chicken drumstick, one cupcake with a pink ring that her son had wanted for a week. These weren't just things, they were hours of her life. Scrubbing floors, serving coffee to people who didn't see her face, coming home with aching feet and making it stretch, making it enough. But Noah was looking at her with those eyes waiting. "Please, Mama." Sarah wiped her face roughly. "You're sure? Once we give it to her, it's gone." "I'm sure." Noah was already standing, reaching for the plate. "She needs it more than me." Sarah caught his wrist. For a moment, she held on this last chance to keep her son's birthday intact, to let him be selfish just this once, to have this one small thing be his alone. Then she let go. "Take the drumstick too," she heard herself say, "and a potato." Noah's smile broke across his face like sunrise. He carefully transferred the food onto the smaller plate, cradling it with both hands. The cupcake sat on top, candles still burning. "I'll be right back." "Noah, wait, you'll get soaked." But he was already at the door plate, held high. Sarah grabbed a dish towel and draped it over his head and shoulders. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Fast as you can," she said. "Run there, and run back." Noah nodded seriously. Then he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him. Sarah rushed to the window. She watched her son's small figure dart across the street, the towel flapping behind him like a cape. The rain soaked through it in seconds, but Noah didn't slow down. He reached the woman and thrust the plate toward her, saying something Sarah couldn't hear. The woman's head jerked up. Even through the rain and distance, Sarah saw her shock. Her gnarled hands reached out slowly, as if afraid the plate might disappear. Noah was still talking, gesturing. Then he did something that made Sarah's breath catch. He blew out the candle on the cupcake and carefully removed it, placing it in the woman's palm. He said something else, touched her wet shoulder gently, and ran back. By the time he burst back through the door, Sarah had a towel ready. She wrapped him up, rubbing his arms, his hair. "You're freezing," she scolded, but her voice was soft. "Completely soaked, Noah James." She said thank you. Noah was shivering, but grinning. "And she said she hasn't had birthday cake in 40 years, Mama. 40 years, can you believe that?" Sarah pulled him close, pressing her face into his wet hair. "What did you tell her?" "I told her it's okay to have some now." Noah's voice was muffled against her shoulder. "I told her today's my birthday, and I want to share it with her." Sarah held her son tighter, this boy who'd given away his only birthday present to a stranger in the rain. Her tears mixed with the rainwater on his cheeks. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. So proud." "Are you sad about the cupcake?" "No, baby." Sarah pulled back to look at his face, cupping his cheeks in her hands. "I'm not sad at all." They stood by the window together, watching the woman across the street. She'd unwrapped the cupcake and was eating it slowly, reverently, her shaking hands cradling it like something holy. The rain continued to pour. Their apartment was cold. The dinner table now held only 2 boiled potatoes. But Sarah wrapped her arms around her son and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Richness. Pure, complete richness. Across the street behind tinted windows that cost more than most people's monthly rent, Henry Harrington watched it all unfold. The black Mercedes idled at the curb, engine purring softly. Rain drummed against the roof in a steady rhythm that should have been soothing, but only amplified the silence inside. Henry sat in the back seat perfectly still, his fingers resting on the leather armrest. He'd told his driver to pull over 5 minutes ago. No reason, just a feeling. Now he couldn't look away. The boy, small-soaked, clutching that plate like it held the world, had just reached the old woman on the stoop. Henry leaned forward slightly, watching the child's mouth move, animated and earnest. The woman's face transformed from suspicion to shock to something that looked like gratitude. Then the boy did something that made Henry's chest tighten. He blew out a candle, removed it from a cupcake, placed it in the woman's weathered palm. "Sir," the driver's voice came through the intercom. "Are we waiting for someone?" Henry didn't answer. His eyes tracked the boy sprinting back across the street, that ridiculous towel flapping behind him. A birthday boy, running through freezing rain to give his birthday dinner to a stranger. The car felt suddenly smaller. The leather seats, the climate control set to exactly 72 degrees, the bottle of mineral water in the console, all of it pressed in on him. Henry loosened his tie. He'd just come from the Metropolitan Club. 3 hours of champagne toasts and hollow laughter, businessmen slapping his back and talking deals while their wives compared vacation homes. Morrison had cornered him by the bar, going on about his new yacht. 42 feet, Henry, you've got to see her. Henry had smiled, nodded, said all the right things. He'd left early, claiming fatigue. Nobody questioned it. Nobody ever questioned Henry Harrington. The driver cleared his throat. "Sir, shall I?" "Wait." Through the rain-streaked window, Henry could see into the apartment now. Third-floor lights dim and flickering. The boy had returned, and the mother, young, tired-looking, was wrapping him in a towel, her movements quick and worried. She was checking him over, probably scolding him for getting wet. But she was smiling. Henry watched them move to the window, together, the mother's arms around her son. They stood there looking down at the old woman who was eating the cupcake with trembling hands. Something twisted in Henry's gut. When was the last time someone had held him like that? When was the last time he'd given something away that mattered? His own birthday had been 2 weeks ago. 63 years old. His assistant had arranged everything, a dinner at Le Bernardin, vintage wine, a custom watch that cost $18,000. She'd even had it wrapped, signed a card in his name to himself. "Happy birthday, Henry. Here's to another successful year. Your team." He'd opened it alone in his penthouse, the watch gleaming under recessed lighting. Beautiful, precise, meaningless. His parents hadn't called, but then they never did. His father was in Monaco with wife number 4. His mother was dead 6 years, and even before that, she'd sent checks instead of cards. "Easier this way, darling. You know I'm terrible with sentiment." Henry had worn the watch once. It sat in a drawer now next to 4 others, just like it, that the boy in the window laughed at something. Henry could see his mouth moving, telling his mother a story. The woman nodded, squeezed him tighter. Henry's hand moved to his own wrist, touching the watch he wore now. Platinum. 18 complications. Worth more than that entire apartment building. He couldn't remember who'd given it to him. Mr. Harrington. The driver sounded concerned now. "Are you feeling all right? Should I call?" "I'm fine." Henry's voice came out rougher than intended. "Just give me a minute." He'd had everything a child could want growing up. The best schools, the finest clothes, toys that other kids dreamed about. His bedroom had been bigger than that apartment across the street, but he'd never run through the rain to give someone his birthday cake. He quote D never had a birthday cake worth running for. Henry remembered his 10th birthday. His father had been in London. His mother had been at a spa in Connecticut. The nanny, what was her name? Rosa, that was it. Rosa had made him chocolate cake, had sung to him in her accented English. His parents had sent a robot. Top of the line, programmable, expensive as hell. He, quote D, wanted his mother. Rosa had stayed late that night, letting him help wash dishes, even though he wasn't supposed to. She'd told him stories about her daughter, about birthday parties in her home country, with nothing but family and music and love. The best gifts, she'd said, drying a plate, are the ones that cost you something real. He hadn't understood then. Watching that boy press against his mother's side, both of them still looking at the old woman eating her cupcake in the rain, Henry understood now. The wealth he'd accumulated, the empire he'd built, it had cost him everything except money. Board meetings instead of breakfast, acquisitions instead of friendships, success measured in billions while his life measured out in empty rooms. That boy had less than nothing, lived in a building with flickering lights and cracked windows, probably went to bed hungry more often than not, but he'd given away his birthday dinner with joy. Jesus, Henry whispered. The mother had moved to the small kitchen area now. Henry watched her open what must have been a cupboard, pull out something. Bread it looked like. Dry bread. She broke it in half, gave one piece to the boy. They sat at a wobbly table. Henry could see it tilt when the boy leaned on it, and they ate their dry bread and smiled at each other like it was a feast. The boy said something that made his mother laugh. She reached across and ruffled his wet hair. That simple gesture, so casual, so full of warmth, hit Henry like a physical blow. When was the last time someone had touched him with affection? Not a handshake, not a polite kiss on the cheek at some function. Real affection. He couldn't remember. His penthouse had 12 rooms. 11 were empty most of the time. He ate dinner at his desk, went to bed alone, woke up to an alarm app that had no snooze button because he'd never needed one. Who would he stay in bed for the meetings, the deals, the zeros in his accounts that kept growing? Because what else was there to do with money except make more of it? He'd thought that was winning. Looking at that mother and son sharing dry bread and laughing like they'd won the lottery, Henry realized he'd spent 63 years losing. The old woman across the street had finished the cupcake. She was standing now looking up at the window where the boy and his mother sat. She pressed her hand to her heart, then raised it toward them. A gesture of thanks. The boy waved back, enthusiastic and unself-conscious. Henry's throat felt tight. He pulled out his phone, the screen illuminating his face in the dark car. His calendar was full for the next 3 months. Meetings, galas, conference calls, obligations stacked so tightly there was no room to breathe. And for what? He looked back at the window. The mother was tucking the boy into what must have been a couch that doubled as a bed. She kissed his forehead, pulled a thin blanket up to his chin. The boy smiled up at her like she'd given him the world. Maybe she had. Henry sat in his leather seat in his luxury car worth more than that family would see in a lifetime. The heater hummed. The seats were perfectly contoured to his spine. Everything was controlled, comfortable, expensive. He'd never felt more poverty-stricken in his life. "Sir," the driver's voice was gentle now. "Where would you like to go?" Henry watched the lights in the apartment flicker once, twice, then steady. The mother was moving around, probably cleaning up their meager dinner. The boy was still on the couch, his small form barely visible under the blanket. Tomorrow that boy would wake up with nothing. No presents, no party, just another day of hunger and hand-me-downs, and a mother working herself to death to keep him fed. And he'd still smile, still find joy in dry bread and his mother's touch. Henry made a decision. "Take me home," he said. "I need to make some calls." "Yes, sir." As the Mercedes pulled away from the curb, Henry turned for one last look. The boy had sat up, was looking out the window again. For a moment, through the rain and the distance and the tinted glass, their eyes seemed to meet. The boy waved. Henry's hand lifted halfway before he realized what he was doing. He let it fall back to his lap. But something had shifted. Some wall he'd built brick by brick over 63 years had developed a crack. That boy, that generous, joyful, ridiculous boy who'd run through the rain to give away his birthday, had done what no business deal, no acquisition, no success had ever managed. He'd made Henry Harrington feel something real, and Henry was going to do something about it. Henry returned at 9 the next morning. Sarah heard the knock and froze at the kitchen sink dish rag dripping in her hand. Nobody knocked on their door at 9 in the morning. Nobody knocked on their door at all, except the landlord when rent was late. "Mama!" Noah looked up from the floor where he was arranging his crayon stubs by color. Someone's here." "Stay there." Sarah dried her hands and moved to the door, checking the peephole. A man stood in the hallway. Expensive suit, silver hair, perfectly styled, holding 2 large boxes. Behind him she could see someone else, a younger man in a chauffeur's uniform. Every instinct screamed danger. Sarah opened the door 6 inches, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Can I help you?" "Mrs." The man paused. "I'm sorry, I don't know your name." "That's right, you don't." Sarah's voice came out flat. "What do you want?" The man shifted the boxes in his arms. Up close, she could see his face clearly. Late 60s lines around his eyes, the kind of tan that came from vacation homes, not construction sites. "My name is Henry Harrington. I was passing by last night and I saw—" He stopped, seemed to reconsider his words. "I saw your son do something remarkable." Sarah's hand tightened on the doorframe. "You were watching my son?" "No, Henry's face reddened. "That came out wrong. I wasn't watching him specifically. My car was parked across the street, and I happened to see him give his birthday dinner to an elderly woman in the rain." The memory flashed through Sarah's mind. Noah running through the downpour, the cupcake clutched carefully in his hands. "And," Sarah's tone didn't warm, "and I wanted to bring him a proper birthday gift." Henry lifted the boxes slightly. "This is a racetrack set, electric cars, the whole system. And there's a cake here, 3-tier chocolate. I thought—" "No." Sarah started to close the door. "Wait, please." "I said no." Sarah met his eyes directly. "Nobody gives anything for free. What do you want?" Henry blinked clearly, not expecting the question. "I don't want anything." "Right." Sarah's laugh was sharp. "A man in a $1,000 suit shows up at my door with expensive toys for my kid and wants nothing. You think I'm stupid. I don't think you're— Are you from social services, some kind of investigator?" Sarah felt her heart rate spike. "Because my son is fed. He's clean. He goes to school every day. I work 2 jobs and we're doing fine. I'm not from social services." Henry's voice was steady. "I'm just someone who was moved by what your son did. Moved enough to track down where we live." Sarah's hand went to the chain lock. "That's called stalking Mr. Harrington." Henry's shoulders sagged slightly. He set the boxes down in the hallway. "You're right. This was inappropriate. I apologize." He started to turn away. Sarah should have let him go, should have closed the door and triple-locked it and never thought about the expensive stranger again. But something in the way he moved, defeated, lonely, made her hesitate. "Why?" she asked. Henry turned back. "Why what? Why does it matter to you what my son did?" Henry was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, rawer. "Because I've never seen anyone give away something that precious. I've been to 100 charity galas where people write 6-figure checks and pat themselves on the back. But your son gave away his birthday dinner, the only one he had. You don't know that. I could see into your apartment." Henry's words were gentle but direct. "I saw you eating dry bread after he went to bed. I know what sacrifice looks like, Mrs. I'm sorry, I still don't know your name." "Sarah." It came out before she could stop it. "Sarah Miller." "Sarah." Henry picked up the boxes again. "I'm not here to do charity. I'm not here to make myself feel better by throwing money at poverty. I'm here because your son taught me something last night, and I don't know how else to say thank you except to give him the birthday he should have had." Sarah studied his face. No cameras, no clipboard, no fake smile plastered on like the church volunteers who came around at Christmas with their pity-wrapped presents. Just an old man with sad eyes and 2 boxes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "What did he teach you?" she asked. Henry, quote, "S throat worked. That generosity isn't about what you can afford to give. It's about what it costs you to give it." The words landed between them, honest and bare. Sarah, quote, S hand moved to the chain lock. Stopped. "Nobody gives without taking." "I know." Henry nodded. "That's what I've learned in 63 years of business. Everything's a transaction. But maybe—" He shifted the boxes again. "Maybe I'm tired of transactions." "Mama." Noah's voice came from behind her. "Who is it?" Sarah turned slightly. Noah had crept closer, curious as always. His eyes locked onto the boxes in Henry's arms, widening. "Is that a racetrack?" Noah's voice went up an octave. "Noah, go back to your crayons." "But Mama, look. It has the loop-de-loop and everything." Noah pressed against Sarah's leg, trying to see better. "Is that for me?" Henry crouched down to Noah's eye-level boxes, still in his arms. "Only if your mother says it's okay." "Please, Mama, please, please, please." Noah bounced on his toes. Sarah looked from her son's eager face to Henry's patient one. Every alarm bell in her head was still ringing. Rich men didn't knock on poor people's doors with gifts unless they wanted something. That was just how the world worked. But Henry wasn't looking at Noah like a charity case. He was looking at him like he mattered. "Mr. Harrington." "Henry, please." "Henry." Sarah's jaw tightened. "I need you to be straight with me. What's the catch?" "There isn't one." "There's always one." Henry stood slowly, his knees cracking. "You want the truth, the real truth." Sarah crossed her arms. "That'd be refreshing." I'm lonely. Henry's voice dropped. I'm 63 years old. I have more money than I could spend in 5 lifetimes. I have a penthouse with 12 rooms, and I eat dinner alone every night. Last night, I watched your son give away his birthday cake to a stranger, and I realized I've never done anything that generous in my entire life. He paused. I didn't come here to help you. I came here to help myself, because maybe if I can give your son a good birthday, I can remember what it feels like to be human. The hallway went silent except for the distant sound of someone's television through thin walls. Sarah had been expecting lies, excuses, maybe some religious pitch about salvation. Not this. Not raw confession from a stranger who looked like he might break. Noah tugged on her shirt. Mama, he seems sad. Out of the mouths of babes. Sarah looked at Henry, really looked at him. Past the expensive suit and the perfect haircut, and the watch that probably cost more than her car. She saw the lines around his mouth, the way he held himself like someone used to being alone, the desperate hope in his eyes that he was trying to hide. She'd been lonely too. Not the same kind she had Noah, and that made all the difference, but she knew what it felt like to be unseen, to be just another body in a crowd, invisible and unimportant. This man saw her son, saw what he'd done, and understood why it mattered. That counted for something. Sarah took a breath. I can't pay you back for these. I'm not asking you to, and I'm not going to owe you anything. You won't. And if you're some kind of creep, I'm not. Henry's voice was firm. I give you my word. You can call the police right now if you want. Run a background check. Whatever you need to feel safe. Sarah's hand moved to the chain lock, hesitated one more time. Noah looked up at her with those eyes that trusted too much, hoped too hard. Mama, can we please let him in, just for a little bit? Noah. Please, it's still my birthday week. Noah smiled that smile that broke her heart daily, and he brought a cake. Henry hadn't moved, hadn't pushed, just stood there holding those boxes waiting for her decision. Sarah thought about last night, about watching Noah run through the rain to give away his only cupcake, about the joy on his face when he came back soaking wet, shivering happy. If she could let her son be generous to strangers, maybe she could accept generosity from one, even if it scared her. 1 hour, Sarah said, sliding the chain lock free. You can stay for 1 hour, but I'm watching you every second. That's fair. Henry's relief was visible. Sarah opened the door wider. And if you try anything weird, you'll throw me out. Henry smiled slightly. As you should. Noah was already bouncing toward the boxes. Can I see? Henry set them down carefully on the floor. Your mama has to say yes first. Noah spun to face Sarah, hands clasped together. Mama, Sarah looked at the boxes, at Henry, at her son's hopeful face. Fine. She stepped back. Come in. Henry Harrington crossed the threshold into their tiny apartment, and somehow everything shifted. Henry stood in the middle of the small apartment, suddenly aware of how much space his body took up. The living room was barely 10 feet across, a couch with a sagging middle, a table with uneven legs, water stains on the ceiling. Noah was already tearing into the racetrack box, his small hands moving fast. Look, Mama, there's 6 cars, 6. Sarah shut the door behind Henry, her arms still crossed. You can sit on the couch if you want. Henry looked at the couch, then at Noah on the floor, surrounded by plastic pieces and instruction sheets. The boy's whole world was down there, spread across worn floorboards that creaked when you stepped on them. Actually, Henry said, would it be okay if I sat down here with Noah? Sarah's eyebrows went up. On the floor, if that's all right? Noah's head popped up. Yes, come help me build it. Henry lowered himself to the floor, his knees protesting. When was the last time he'd sat on the ground? Years. Decades, maybe. The wood was cold through his dress pants, slightly damp from humidity. The apartment couldn't shake. Noah scooted closer, dumping track pieces between them. Okay, so we gotta connect these parts first. See the notches? Henry picked up a piece of red track, examining it. Like this. Yeah, you're good at this. Noah beamed at him. Now we make a loop. That's the best part. They worked in silence for a few minutes, Henry following Noah's instructions. The boy's hands were confident, sure. He'd probably seen this toy in stores, pressed his face against windows, memorized exactly how it worked. How do you know so much about racetracks? Henry asked. Noah shrugged. I watch YouTube at the library sometimes. They got computers there for free. The casual mention of free computers hit Henry in the chest. This kid's entertainment was borrowed time on public computers. There! Noah snapped two pieces together with a satisfying click. Now, we do the jump ramp. Sarah moved to the kitchen area, really just a hot plate and a mini fridge in the corner. Henry heard water running the clink of a kettle. "You drink coffee, Mr. Harrington." "Henry." "And yes, thank you." "It's not fancy," Sarah warned, "just instant." "That's perfect." Noah was building the ramp now, his tongue sticking out in concentration. "You gotta make sure it's steady or the cars flip over instead of jumping. It's all about balance." "That makes sense." Henry connected another section of track. "And you know what else?" Noah looked up at him, eyes serious. "You gotta believe the car will make it. If you don't believe it won't work." Henry smiled. "Is that so?" "Yeah, my friend Tyler, he always thinks his car is going to crash, and it does, every time. But when I race, I think, you can do it, little car. And it makes the jump." Noah demonstrated with his hands making whooshing sounds. "So, it's about faith." "What's faith?" "Believing in something, even when you can't see it." Noah's face brightened. "Yeah, exactly like that." Henry watched the boy position another track piece, his small fingers careful and precise. "You're very smart, Noah. Mama says I get it from my grandma. She was real smart, too." "She sounds wonderful." "She died before I was born." Noah said it matter-of-factly, the way kids do with heavy things. "But Mama tells me stories. Grandma made the best cookies in the whole world." Sarah appeared with two mugs, handing one to Henry. The coffee was weak. The mug chipped. Henry wrapped his hands around it and felt more gratitude than he had for the $1,000 wine at last week's dinner party. "Thank you." Sarah settled onto the couch, watching them both. "Noah, don't talk Mr. Harrington's ear off. He's fine." Henry took a sip. "I like listening." "See, Mama, he likes it." Noah grinned. "Okay, now, we gotta test the track. You race the blue car, I'll race the red one." They positioned their cars at the starting line. Noah's face was pure concentration. "Ready?" Noah asked. 3, 2, 1, go." They released the cars simultaneously. The little electric vehicles zoomed forward, whining on the plastic track. Noah's made the loop perfectly. Henry's flew off on the turn. Noah erupted in laughter. "You gotta go slower on the curves." Henry retrieved his car, grinning despite himself. "Best out of 3. "Yeah." Sarah sipped her own coffee, her guard lowering incrementally as she watched Henry line up his car again, this time listening carefully as Noah explained the technique. They raced 5 times. Noah won 4. "You're getting better," Noah said encouragingly after Henry finally won a round. "See, you just gotta believe." Henry found himself laughing, really laughing for the first time in months. Sarah stood up. "Noah, show Mr. Harrington your treasure box, if you want." Noah's eyes lit up. "Oh yeah, wait here." He scrambled up and ran to a corner where a shoebox sat on a small shelf. He brought it back carefully, cradling it like something precious. "This is my treasure," Noah announced, sitting cross-legged next to Henry. He opened the box. Inside were smooth stones, different colors and sizes, a bottle cap that caught the light, a feather, a key to nothing, and drawings, dozens of them folded carefully. "These are from the park," Noah said, holding up a gray stone. "This one looks like a dinosaur egg, see?" Henry took it gently. It was just a rock. Smooth, pretty in the sunlight, but just a rock. To Noah, it was treasure. "And this one's my favorite." Noah unfolded a drawing with careful reverence. 3 stick figures. One tall with long hair, Sarah. One small with a big smile, Noah himself. And one in the middle, taller than both, wearing what looked like a tie. "That's my family drawing," Noah said softly. "The one I wish I had." Henry's throat closed up. "Who's the third person?" "I don't know yet." Noah traced the figure with his finger. "Maybe a dad, or a grandpa, or just someone who stays." Sarah's cup clinked against the counter. When Henry glanced at her, she was looking away, her jaw tight. "Someone who stays," Henry repeated quietly. Noah nodded. "Mama works really hard. Sometimes she's gone at night, and I stay with Mrs. Chen downstairs, and I draw pictures of what it would be like if she didn't have to work so much, if we had enough." "Noah," Sarah's voice was strained. "That's enough." "But Mama." "Enough." Noah carefully folded the drawing back up, placing it in the box. "Sorry." Henry watched Sarah's face, saw the shame and pride warring there. She worked herself to exhaustion for this child, and he drew pictures of what she couldn't give him. "You know what I think?" Henry said carefully. Noah looked up. "What?" "I think you're already rich." Noah tilted his head. "But we don't got money." No, but you have something better. Henry gestured between Noah and Sarah. You have each other, and you have love. Real love. The kind that makes your mom work 2 jobs and makes you give away your birthday cake to strangers. Noah considered this seriously. Is that better than money? Yes. Henry's voice was certain. I have all the money in the world, Noah, and I'd trade every penny of it for what you have with your mother. Sarah made a small sound, and Noah looked at his treasure box, then at Henry. You must be really lonely. The simple observation, spoken without malice or pity, just truth, broke something open in Henry's chest. Yeah, Henry whispered, I am. You want to see my other drawings? Noah offered. They're happy ones. Maybe they'll make you feel better. Henry nodded, not trusting his voice. Noah pulled out more papers. A sun with a smiley face, a dog he wanted someday, a house with a garden, each one full of hope and color despite being drawn with crayon stubs. This one's my favorite happy picture, Noah said, unfolding the last one. It's me and Mama eating pancakes. We don't got pancakes a lot, but when we do, we put faces on them with the syrup. Henry stared at the drawing. 2 figures at a table plates with smiley faces, hearts floating above their heads. This was wealth. This was richness. Not the balance in his accounts or the square footage of his penthouse. This a child who could draw joy from pancakes and put hearts above his mother's head. Can I race again? Noah asked. I'll let you win this time. You don't have to let me win. I know, but it's fun to share winning. Mama says that's important. They lined up their cars again. Henry's hands were steadier now. They raced, and when Noah's car crossed first, he hadn't let Henry win, after all too competitive for that. The boy threw his arms up. Yes, did you see that jump? That was amazing. Henry said. Noah launched himself forward, wrapping his arms around Henry's neck in a spontaneous hug. This is the best birthday ever. Thank you, Henry. Henry froze. The small body pressed against him, warm and trusting, arms squeezing tight, the smell of cheap shampoo and childhood. When was the last time someone had hugged him? Not a professional handshake or a polite pat, a real hug. He couldn't remember. Henry, S arms came up slowly, wrapping around the small boy. His eyes burned. Noah pulled back, smiling. You okay? Yeah. Henry's voice cracked. I'm okay. But tears were running down his face, and he couldn't stop them. Sarah moved closer, concern flickering across her face. Henry, I'm sorry. Henry wiped at his eyes roughly. I'm sorry, Noah patted his shoulder. It's okay to cry. Mama says crying means you're feeling big feelings. Very big feelings. Henry managed. Sarah knelt down beside them, her hand hovering near Henry's shoulder before settling there gently. You all right? Henry looked at her, then at Noah, then at the tiny apartment with its water-stained ceiling and wobbly table and treasure box full of rocks. I think I am, he said, for the first time in a very long time. Henry checked his watch. The hour had stretched to 3. Noah was showing him how to make the cars do tricks, completely absorbed in explaining the physics of plastic loops. Sarah stood up from the couch. I should make lunch. You've been so kind to Noah. Let me at least feed you before you go. You don't have to. I want to. Sarah's voice was firm. It's not much, but it's something. Henry nodded, not wanting to offend her. Thank you. Sarah moved to the small kitchen area, pulling out a pot. Noah, come help me with the vegetables. But Mama, now please. Noah sighed dramatically, but obeyed, leaving Henry alone with the racetrack. He could hear them in the kitchen, Sarah's quiet instructions, Noah's chatter about the cars. The apartment smelled like coffee and old wood. Henry looked around more carefully now. Family photos on the wall, Sarah and Noah at different ages. An older woman, in some of them strong features, kind eyes. That's my mother, Sarah called from the kitchen, catching him looking. Rosa. She's beautiful. She was. Sarah's voice softened. Passed away 6 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Sarah didn't respond, focusing on chopping carrots. Noah stood on a step stool beside her, stirring something in the pot. 20 minutes later, Sarah set a bowl in front of Henry. Stew simple with vegetables and a little meat. The broth was rich, seasoned carefully. This smells incredible, Henry said honestly. It's my mom's recipe. She taught me everything about cooking. Sarah handed Noah a smaller bowl. Careful, it's hot. Henry tasted it. The flavors were complex despite the simple ingredients. Warmth spread through him, not just from the temperature, but from something deeper. This is wonderful, Sarah, really. She smiled, pleased. There's more. I made dessert too. Mom's ginger cookies. They take a while to bake, but I started them before you came. The oven timer went off as if on cue. Sarah pulled out a tray of golden brown cookies, their scent filling the small apartment. Henry froze. That smell. That exact combination of ginger molasses, something else he couldn't name. His breath caught in his throat. Are you okay? Sarah set the tray down. Henry couldn't speak. The smell was pulling him backward through time. 40 years, 50, to a kitchen bigger than this entire apartment, to a woman with an apron and flour on her hands. Henry! Sarah's voice sharpened with concern. Noah tugged on Henry's sleeve. Do you not like cookies? No, Henry's hands were shaking. Can I try one? Sarah plated 3 cookies, setting one in front of him. They're still warm. Be careful. Henry picked it up. The texture was right. The weight. Even the slightly crispy edges. He bit into it. The world stopped. Ginger and warmth and sweetness and something indefinable. Something that tasted like childhood, like the only kindness he'd known in a house full of cold marble and colder parents. Oh my God. Henry's voice came out broken. Sarah sat down quickly. What's wrong? Are you allergic? Where did you get this recipe? Henry's eyes were wide, almost wild. Where? Sarah drew back slightly. I told you. My mother. What was her full name? Henry set the cookie down with trembling hands. Your mother. What was her full name? Rosa Miller. Why? Rosa. Henry's face had gone white. Rosa, who worked for the Harrington family. Sarah's expression shifted from concern to confusion. How did you? I'm Henry Harrington, his voice cracked. Your mother was my nanny. She made these cookies for me when I was 10 years old. This exact recipe. I'd know it anywhere. The apartment went silent, except for the ticking of a wall clock. Sarah stood up slowly, her chair scraping against the floor. That's not possible. I remember her. Henry was speaking faster now, words tumbling out. She had an accent. She sang when she cooked. She was the only person in that house who ever hugged me. Stop. Sarah's voice was sharp. She made these cookies for my 10th birthday. My parents weren't there. They were never there. But Rosa stayed late. She let me help her in the kitchen. Stop. Sarah's hands were shaking now, too. You're the Harrington boy. Henry nodded. Sarah's face twisted. Get out. What? Get out of my house. Her voice was ice. Right now. Noah looked between them, frightened. Mama! Noah, go to your room. But now. Noah scrambled away, clutching his bowl. Henry stood slowly. Sarah, please. Let me explain. Explain what? Sarah's eyes were blazing. Explain how your father fired my mother when she got sick. How he threw her out with no insurance, no severance, nothing. Henry felt the words like physical blows. What? She worked for your family for 15 years. 15 years, and when she got diagnosed with cancer, your father said she was a liability. Fired her on the spot. No. Henry's voice was barely audible. No, I didn't know. She couldn't afford treatment. She took whatever jobs she could, cleaning houses while she was dying, because she had a daughter to feed. Sarah's voice broke. She died in a public hospital ward because of your family. Henry's legs gave out. He sank onto the couch, his face in his hands. I didn't know. God, I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. Sarah's voice was bitter. Rich people never know what they destroy. When? Henry looked up, tears on his face. When did this happen? I was 19, working 2 jobs to pay for community college. She never told me how bad it was until the end. Sarah wiped her eyes roughly. You want to know what she said before she died? Henry couldn't speak. She said she hoped you were okay. You, the Harrington boy who probably didn't remember her name. Sarah's laugh was sharp and pained. She loved you. Even after everything she talked about you, like you were her own child. Henry's breath came in short gasps. I looked for her. Years later, when I took over the company, I tried to find her, to thank her, to... She was already dead. Sarah's voice was flat. Dead and buried in a county cemetery because I couldn't afford anything better. The room spun. Henry gripped the edge of the couch, trying to breathe. Rosa. Kind, gentle Rosa, who'd made him feel loved when no one else did. Who'd sung to him in Spanish and taught him that cookies made with care tasted different than ones bought from a bakery. His father had destroyed her. Sarah. Henry's voice was wrecked. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back. I know. Henry slid off the couch onto his knees. I know it doesn't, but please, please let me. Let you what? Throw money at it. Make yourself feel better. Sarah's voice cracked. "You can't fix this, Henry." "I know I can't." Henry's tears fell freely now. "But I have to try. Your mother gave me the only real love I ever knew as a child. She deserves so much better. You deserve so much better." Sarah stared at him, this billionaire kneeling on her floor, sobbing. "She talked about you," Sarah said quietly. "Even at the end, she said you were a sweet boy, that you had a good heart buried under all that money." "I'm not good." Henry's voice was raw. "I became exactly like my father, building wealth, ignoring people, treating everyone like transactions. Until last night." Henry looked up. Sarah, quote-s expression had shifted slightly, the fury giving way to something more complicated. "She would have liked that. What you did for Noah. It doesn't make up for anything." "No." Sarah sat down slowly. "It doesn't." They were quiet for a moment. From Noah's room came the sound of quiet crying. "I should go," Henry said. "I never meant to. I didn't know." "Wait." Sarah's voice stopped him. She stood and walked to a small closet, pulling out a cardboard box. She set it on the table and removed something carefully wrapped in tissue paper, an apron, faded, worn, but clean, embroidered on the pocket in careful stitching. "Rosa. This was hers," Sarah said. "The only thing I kept from her work clothes. She wore it every day in your family's kitchen." Henry reached out with shaking hands, touching the fabric. "Can I?" Sarah handed it to him. Henry pressed the apron to his face and broke. Great heaving sobs that shook his entire body. He could smell it, faint traces of the kitchen, of Rosa's perfume, of everything he'd lost. "I'm sorry," he gasped between sobs. "I'm so sorry. She deserved everything. You deserved everything. And my family took it all away." Sarah watched him cry, her own tears falling silently. "She forgave you. Before she died, she made me promise something." Henry looked up. "She made me promise that if I ever met you, I'd tell you she wasn't angry." Sarah's voice trembled. "She said it wasn't your fault. She said you were just a child who needed love, and she was glad she could give it to you." Henry couldn't breathe. "She said," Sarah wiped her face, "she said she hoped life would teach you to be different from your father, that you'd find your way to kindness." Henry clutched the apron tighter. "I don't deserve that forgiveness." "Maybe not." Sarah sat down beside him. "But she gave it anyway." "That's who my mother was." They sat in the small apartment surrounded by the smell of ginger cookies, both crying for a woman who'd loved them both. "The cookies," Henry said finally. "You learned from her." "She taught me everything. Said cooking was how we show love when we can't afford anything else." Henry touched the embroidered name. "Rosa's Flavor." "What?" "That's what I called it. When I was a kid, I told her that her cookies tasted like love, and she laughed and said that was Rosa's special flavor." Henry's voice was soft. "I've been looking for that taste for 50 years. Sarah looked at the cookies cooling on the counter. "And you found it." "I found more than that." Henry met her eyes. "I found her daughter, her grandson. I found a second chance I don't deserve." "What are you saying?" Henry carefully folded the apron, handing it back to her. "I'm saying I want to honor your mother's memory, not with charity, not with pity, but with real partnership, real respect." "Henry, let me help you, Sarah. Not because you're poor, not because I feel guilty, but because your mother would have wanted me to, because she loved us both, and maybe this is how we love her back." Sarah held her mother's apron, tears streaming down her face. From the bedroom, Noah's small voice called out, "Is it safe to come out yet?" Sarah laughed through her tears. "Yeah, baby, it's safe." Noah emerged cautiously, his face blotchy from crying. He looked at Henry, still on his knees, then at his mother. "Are you friends again?" he asked. Sarah and Henry looked at each other. "Yeah," Sarah said softly. "I think we are." Henry came back 3 days later with a folder full of papers and a check that made Sarah's hands shake. "What is this?" She stared at the number. 6 figures. More money than she'd see in 10 years of work. A house. Henry stood in her doorway, briefcase in hand. 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood near a decent school for Noah. "It's yours." Sarah thrust the check back at him. "No." "Sarah, please." "I said no." Her voice was firm. "I'm not taking your charity. It's not charity. It's what guilt money." Sarah crossed her arms. "You think you can buy away what happened to my mother." Henry's face fell. "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing?" Sarah's jaw was tight. "Showing up here with a check like you're some kind of savior." "I don't need saving, Henry. I need respect." Noah appeared behind his mother, curious. "Is Henry here?" "Go back to your room, baby." "But now, please." Noah retreated, but Sarah could feel his presence just around the corner, listening. Henry set his briefcase down slowly. "You're right. I'm sorry. I approached this all wrong." "Yeah, you did. Can I try again?" Henry's voice was humble. "Please." Sarah studied his face. The desperation there wasn't fake. Neither was the regret. 5 minutes. "Thank you." Henry took a breath. "I've been thinking about your mother's cookies, about how you said cooking was her way of showing love when she couldn't afford anything else. So what if we made that into something bigger, something that honors her memory the right way?" Sarah frowned. "I don't understand." "A restaurant." Henry spoke faster, now energized. "Called Rosa's Flavor, your mother's recipes, your cooking, a place where people can taste what real love feels like." Sarah blinked. "A restaurant? You'd be the chef, the owner. I'd just provide the funding." "Henry, I can't run a restaurant. I've never—" "You can cook. That's what matters." Henry pulled papers from his briefcase. "I've already looked into locations. There's a space in your neighborhood, affordable rent, good foot traffic. We could renovate it, set it up exactly how you want." Sarah took the papers numbly. Floor plans, budget projections, market analysis. "This is insane." "Why?" "Because I work at a diner. I make minimum wage plus tips. I'm not a chef. Your mother was a chef." Henry's voice was gentle. "She just never got the chance to show anyone. Let me give you that chance. Let me give her that chance, even if it's too late." Sarah looked at the plans, her heart pounding. A restaurant. Her own restaurant. Her mother's recipes, feeding people, making them happy. It was impossible. "I'll fail," she said quietly. "I'll lose everything and make you lose money, and this isn't about money." Henry moved closer. "This is about making sure your mother's legacy doesn't die in that apartment. She taught you how to cook. She gave you her recipes. That's worth more than any amount I could invest." "But what if nobody comes? What if the food isn't good enough?" "The food is incredible, Sarah. I tasted it. It made me cry." Henry smiled slightly. "That stew, those cookies, they're special. People will come." Noah peeked around the corner. "Can I come out now?" Sarah sighed. "Yes." Noah bounded over, immediately interested in the papers. "What's this?" "Mr. Harrington wants to open a restaurant," Sarah said, "with Grandma Rosa's recipes." Noah's eyes went huge. "Really? Like a real restaurant where people pay money to eat? Exactly like that?" Henry knelt down to Noah's level. "What do you think? Should we do it?" "Yes." Noah jumped up and down. "We have to. Grandma's cookies are the best in the whole world." "Noah, it's not that simple." "Why not, Mama?" Noah turned to her, his face serious. "You always say Grandma's food was made with love. Don't other people deserve to taste that too?" The question hit Sarah in the chest, out of the mouths of babes. "It's scary, baby. What if we fail?" "But what if we don't?" Noah grabbed her hand. "What if it's amazing?" Henry stood up. "I have lawyers who can draw up contracts. You'd own 51%, majority ownership. I'd be a silent partner. The restaurant would be yours to run however you want." 51%, Sarah's voice cracked. "That's not fair to you." "It's completely fair. You're bringing the talent, the recipes, the heart." Henry met her eyes. "I'm just bringing money. And between the two, your contribution is worth more." Sarah looked at the floor plans again. A kitchen, a dining room, space for 20 tables, a small patio for summer evenings. Rosa, S flavor. Her mother's name in lights. "I don't have experience," Sarah said, but her voice was weaker now. "You have your mother's teaching. That's better than culinary school." "I've never managed anything." "I'll help you hire staff. I'll consult. But the decisions will be yours." "What if I make terrible decisions?" "Then we'll learn from them." Henry's voice was steady. "Sarah, this isn't about building a perfect business. This is about keeping your mother alive, about making sure that when people taste her food, they remember that love matters more than profit." Sarah's hand moved to her pocket where she always kept a small photo of her mother, Rosa, smiling in her apron flower on her cheek, happy in a kitchen that wasn't hers. "Mama!" Noah tugged her sleeve. "Can I help too?" "Help how, baby?" "I can draw." Noah was already running to get his crayons. "I'll make a logo. Every restaurant needs a logo." He returned with paper and his worn crayon stubs, immediately setting to work on the floor. His tongue stuck out in concentration as he drew. Henry and Sarah watched him in silence. "He believes in you," Henry said softly. "Shouldn't you?" Sarah's throat was tight. "What if I let him down?" "You won't. You're the woman who raised him to give away his birthday cake to strangers. You're Rosa's daughter. You've got this in your blood." Noah held up his drawing, a simple but sweet design, a cookie with a heart in the center, the words "Rosa's Flavor" written in his careful child's handwriting around it. "What do you think?" Noah beamed. "I made the heart big because Grandma had a big heart." Sarah took the drawing with shaking hands. "It's perfect, baby." "So we're doing it." Noah's eyes were huge with hope. "We're really doing it." Sarah looked at her son, then at Henry, then at the floor plans spread across her wobbly table. She thought about her mother in the Harrington kitchen, making cookies for a lonely little boy, about all the love Rosa had given freely, never asking for anything back, about how Sarah had inherited that love and those recipes and the ability to make people feel cared for through food. Her mother had died without recognition, without reward, just another forgotten worker who'd given everything and gotten nothing. Sarah could change that. She walked to the small closet and pulled out the box. Rosa's apron. She held it for a moment, feeling the worn fabric, seeing the careful embroidery of her mother's name. "Okay," Sarah said quietly. Henry's head snapped up. "Okay, okay." Sarah's voice grew stronger. "We'll do it. We'll open Rosa's Flavor." Noah screamed with joy, jumping around the small apartment. "Yes, yes, yes." Henry's smile was trembling. "You won't regret this." "I already regret it." Sarah laughed shakily. "I'm terrified." "Good. That means you care." Henry extended his hand. "Partners." Sarah looked at his hand, shook it firmly. "Partners. But I'm in charge of the kitchen." "Absolutely. And I pick the recipes." "Of course. And if you try to take over or make this about your ego, I'll back off immediately." Henry's grip was warm. "This is your mother's legacy, Sarah. I'm just honored to help build it." Sarah held onto his hand a moment longer. "Why are you really doing this?" Henry's eyes glistened. "Because your mother saved me when I was 10 years old. She showed me what love looked like, and I never got to thank her. This is my thank you. 50 years too late, but it's all I have." Sarah nodded slowly. "She would have liked this. She would have liked you trying." "I hope so." Noah grabbed both their hands, pulling them together. "Group hug. Every restaurant needs to start with a group hug." They laughed, and Sarah found herself pulled into an embrace with Henry and her son, the three of them standing in her tiny apartment, holding floor plans for a dream that seemed impossible. But her mother had done impossible things, had loved an unloved child, had taught her daughter to cook with her heart, had smiled through poverty and pain. Sarah could do this. For Rosa, for Noah, for herself. "Rosa's Flavor," she whispered, testing the words. They tasted like hope. 6 months of work came down to this moment. Sarah stood in the restaurant kitchen, her hands pressed flat on the steel counter. Through the service window, she could see the dining room filling up. Neighbors, strangers, people who'd watched the renovation with curious eyes. The building had been an abandoned hardware store. Now it glowed with warm, light wooden tables arranged in cozy clusters, Rosa's name painted in elegant script across the window. Mama Noah burst through the kitchen door, wearing a tiny vest Henry had bought him. "There's like 50 people out there already." 50. Sarah's stomach flipped. "We only have seating for 40. Henry says it's a good problem." Noah grinned. "He's seating people at the bar, too." Sarah looked at her reflection in the stainless steel. She wore Rosa's apron over her new chef's coat. The coat felt too fancy, but the apron grounded her. Her mother's name embroidered right over her heart. "You ready, chef?" Maria, the sous chef Henry had helped her hire, smiled from the stove. "No." Sarah laughed nervously. "But let's do it anyway." The first order came in. The stew, Rosa's stew that had made Henry cry. Sarah's hands moved automatically, muscle memory from years of watching her mother. Sear the meat, build the base. Add the secret ingredients, the ones Rosa had whispered to her on quiet Sunday afternoons. "Order up in 5, she called. Through the window, she watched Henry at the host stand. He'd insisted on greeting guests himself, dressed in a simple suit, smiling genuinely at each person who walked in. Not the billionaire, just a man who wanted to share something good. "Mama, can I take this to table 3? Noah held a basket of bread. "Go ahead, baby, but walk, don't run." Noah walked as quickly as walking allowed, his importance obvious in every step. The restaurant filled with sound conversations, laughter, the clink of silverware. Sarah plated the first bowl of stew, garnishing it carefully. Maria took it to the window. "Order up." The server grabbed it, disappeared into the dining room. Sarah held her breath. Through the window, she watched an elderly man take his first spoonful, saw his eyes close, saw him nod slowly, then take another bite. He liked it. 3 more stew orders. Ew, the server called. And 2 ginger cookie desserts. Sarah's hands moved faster. Maria worked beside her perfectly in sync. They'd practiced this for weeks, but practice didn't have real people waiting real expectations. Table 7 wants to compliment the chef. Another server called. Tell them thank you. Sarah didn't have time to go out there. 3 pots on the stove, 4 orders waiting to plate. Henry appeared at the kitchen door. Sarah, there's someone here to see you. Kinda busy, Henry. I know, but... He smiled. Trust me on this one. Sarah wiped her hands, stepped into the dining room. The elderly woman from the rain stood near the entrance. The same woman Noah had given his birthday cupcake to months ago. She looked different, clean coat hair, brushed, standing straighter. You, Sarah breathed. The woman's eyes were wet. I heard about this place. Heard it was run by the family who helped me that night. She reached out, gripped Sarah's hand. I had to come. Had to say thank you properly. You don't have to thank us. Yes, I do. What your boy did. The woman's voice caught. Nobody had been kind to me in so long. I'd forgotten what it felt like. Noah appeared carrying his bread basket. He stopped, recognizing her. The cookie lady. The woman laughed. That's right, sweetheart. The cookie lady. Do you want more cookies? Noah's face was earnest. We have lots now, Grandma Rosa's recipe. I would love that. The woman smiled. More than you know. Henry stepped forward. We have a special table reserved, the best seat in the house. He led the woman to a table by the window, the one with the best view of the street where Noah had run through the rain that night. Sarah watched from the kitchen door, her chest tight. Chef, Maria called. We need you. Sarah returned to the line, but something had shifted. The nervousness was still there, but underneath it was something stronger. Purpose. Orders kept coming. The stew sold out. They made more. The ginger cookies disappeared from the display case. Noah, self-appointed manager, reported breathlessly between trips to the dining room. Table 9 says it's the best meal they've had all year. The people at the bar asked for the recipe. Mrs. Chen from downstairs is here with her whole family. Sarah looked through the window, and sure enough, there was Mrs. Chen, the neighbor, who'd watched Noah on late work nights sitting with her children and grandchildren. The dinner rush intensified. Sarah moved through the kitchen like her mother must have moved through the Harrington kitchen, confident, purposeful, pouring love into every dish. At 7 o'clock, Noah appeared with a small cake candles already lit. Behind him came Maria Henry and the servers all singing. Happy opening day to you! Sarah's eyes burned. She hadn't expected this. Make a wish, chef, Maria said. Sarah looked at the faces around her, her son glowing with pride. Henry, tears in his eyes, her staff people who'd believed in this crazy dream. Through the service window, the dining room full of neighbors and strangers, all connected by food, made with Rosa's love. She closed her eyes and wished that her mother could see this, could know that her recipes lived on, that her name meant something. Sarah blew out the candles. The kitchen erupted in cheers. Then everyone scrambled back to work because orders were still coming. At 8:30, during a brief lull, Sarah stepped into the dining room. Every table was full. People waited by the door for seats. The sound was beautiful, genuine conversation, real laughter, the satisfied quiet of people enjoying good food. Henry stood by the host stand, watching it all with wonder. Sarah joined him. We did it. You did it, Henry corrected. I just wrote some checks. Those were important checks. Not as important as what you brought. Henry gestured to the room. Look at them, Sarah. They're not just eating. They're connecting, sharing. This is what your mother did. She fed people's souls, not just their stomachs. Sarah watched the elderly woman at the window table. Noah had brought her a full plate of cookies, probably too many, but the woman was eating them slowly, savoring each bite. She caught Sarah watching and raised her water glass in salute. Sarah waved back. Table 12 needs a refill, a server said, passing by. On it. Sarah started to move. Henry caught her arm gently. Let your staff handle it for 5 minutes. Stay here. Watch what you built. Sarah stayed. She watched Noah zigzag between tables, greeting everyone like old friends. Watched Maria through the kitchen window, plating with the same care Sarah had taught her. Watched neighbors laugh together, strangers become friends over shared meals. A young mother at table 6 was helping her daughter blow out a cupcake candle. The The little girl's face glowed with joy. Sarah's hand moved to Rosa's apron. She'd be proud, wouldn't she? She'd be so proud she'd burst. Henry's voice was thick. Her daughter running her own restaurant, her grandson spreading kindness everywhere he goes, her recipes feeding a whole neighborhood. Our neighborhood, Sarah corrected. This was always for them. The door opened again. More people. The wait list was getting longer. We might need to expand, Henry said. Sarah laughed. We've been open for 5 hours. I know. But look at this. Henry's gesture encompassed the crowded room, the waiting customers, the energy that seemed to pulse through the space. This is special, Sarah. People can feel it. Sarah knew he was right. This wasn't just a restaurant. It was what Rosa had always created, a place where people felt seen, valued, loved. Noah ran up slightly out of breath. Mama, can we make this a birthday spot? Like people can come here for birthdays and we give them special cookies. That's a wonderful idea, baby. And maybe we can give free cookies to people who look sad, like the cookie lady was sad and cookies made her happy. Henry and Sarah exchanged glances. I think, Henry said carefully, that's exactly what your grandma would have wanted. Yeah. Noah pumped his fist. Okay, I gotta go. Table 8 needs more bread. He disappeared into the crowd. Sarah watched him go. This boy who'd given away his birthday dinner and started a chain reaction that led to all of this. You know what the best part is, Sarah said quietly. What? My mother worked in kitchens her whole life, cooked for rich people who never learned her name, gave everything and got nothing back. Sarah's voice strengthened. But now her name is on a sign. Now people are paying to eat her food. Now she matters. She always mattered, Henry said. But now everyone knows it. Through the window, Sarah could see the street where Noah had run through the rain, could almost see the ghost of that moment, a small boy with a cupcake choosing kindness over keeping. That choice had changed everything. The restaurant hummed with life and warmth. Sarah looked at Henry, this man who'd been broken by loneliness and remade by a child's generosity. Thank you, she said, for believing in this. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Henry smiled. For the first time in my life, my money actually means something. Order up, Maria called from the kitchen. Sarah squeezed Henry's arm and headed back to work. There were people to feed, love to share, her mother's legacy to continue. And for the first time in 6 years, Sarah felt her mother's presence strongly, not in grief, but in joy. Rosa was here, in every bite of stew, every ginger cookie, every smile. Her flavor lived on. 1 year later, Noah turned 7. The restaurant was closed to the public for the evening, transformed into a private celebration. Balloons in bright colors clustered around the tables. Streamers hung from the ceiling. The smell of Rosa's cooking filled every corner. Stew simmering, cookies baking, love made edible. Sarah stood in the kitchen doorway, watching the scene unfold. 20 kids from Noah's school ran around the dining room, their laughter bouncing off the walls. Parents sat at tables, relaxed and smiling, eating food that had become neighborhood famous. Chef, the cake's ready, Maria called. Sarah turned to see the 3-tier masterpiece they'd created together. Chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry layers, rainbow frosting, 7 candles waiting to be lit. Nothing like the single cupcake from last year. Everything. Like it in the ways that mattered. It's perfect, Sarah said. Bring it out in 10 minutes. She walked into the dining room, weaving between running children. Noah was at the center of the chaos, his face flushed with joy, showing his friends the racetrack that still occupied a corner of the restaurant Henry had insisted they keep it. Mama, Noah spotted her. Can we do presents now? After cake, baby. But Henry's been waiting. He keeps looking at his present like it's gonna explode. Sarah glanced across the room. Henry sat at a table with Mrs. Chen and the elderly woman from the rain, Dorothy they'd learned her name was. He was indeed holding a wrapped package, turning it over in his hands nervously. Henry had changed. The expensive suits were gone, replaced with comfortable slacks and sweaters. He'd sold the penthouse 6 months ago, moved into a modest apartment 2 blocks from the restaurant. He ate dinner with them most nights, helped Noah with homework, learned to make Rosa's recipes himself. He'd stopped being a billionaire and started being a person. Presents after cake, Sarah repeated. House rules? Noah groaned dramatically, but accepted it. Returning to his friends, Sarah crossed to Henry's table. You okay? Nervous. Henry set the present down. What if he doesn't like it? Dorothy laughed, her voice warm. Henry, that boy adores you. He could get a rock and he'd love it. I tried the rock thing. Henry said seriously. "He has plenty already." Sarah sat down, squeezing his shoulder. "Whatever it is, he'll love it." Mrs. Chen smiled knowingly. "It's not about the gift. It's about who gives it." Henry looked at Sarah. In his eyes, she saw the same loneliness from a year ago, but now it was filled with something else. Belonging. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For letting me stay. For not kicking me out after that first awful day with the check." "You mean when you tried to buy my life?" Sarah teased. "I was an idiot." "You were." Sarah's smile softened. "But you learned." The kitchen timer rang. Maria appeared with the cake candles blazing. Everyone gathered, the children forming a circle around Noah. They sang. Noah's face glowed in the candlelight, so different from last year's single flame on a gas station cupcake. But his smile was the same pure, unselfconscious joy. "Make a wish," someone called. Noah closed his eyes tight. His lips moved silently. Then he blew, extinguishing all 7 candles in one breath. Cheers erupted. Maria began cutting slices while Sarah helped distribute them to eager hands. "Present time," Noah announced, unable to wait any longer. The pile was modest but meaningful. Books from Mrs. Chen, art supplies from the restaurant staff, a new set of crayons from Dorothy the Good Kind, 72 colors still in the box. "These are real crayons." Noah's eyes were huge. "Not even a little bit used." Dorothy wiped her eyes. "Every artist needs proper tools." Then Noah reached for Henry's present. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. Noah tore the paper carefully, revealing a wooden frame. Inside was a drawing, his drawing, the one of 3 people as a family. But Henry had done something to it. He'd had it professionally matted, preserved behind museum-quality glass. Below it, a small plaque read, "Family isn't about blood, it's about who stays." Noah, age 6 inches. Noah stared at it, silent. Sarah, S throat closed up. "I found it in your treasure box." Henry said softly, "I hope you don't mind. I thought it deserved to be displayed, like real art." Noah looked up at Henry, his eyes swimming. "You think my drawing is real art?" "I think it's the most important art I've ever seen." Noah launched himself at Henry, wrapping his arms around his neck. "You're the 3rd person in the picture. It's you." Henry caught him, holding tight. "I am." "Yeah." Noah pulled back, pointing at the stick figure with the tie. "See, that's you. I drew it before I even met you, but it's you." Sarah watched Henry's face crumble with emotion. He looked at the drawing again, at the simple figure that somehow predicted his place in their lives. "Can I tell you something?" Noah whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "When I wished on my birthday candles last year, I wished for a grandpa. And then you came." The room was absolutely silent. Henry, his hands shook as he cupped Noah's face. "And when I saw you give away your birthday cake, I wished for a family. Looks like we both got what we wanted." "So we can keep you?" Noah asked. "Forever. If your mother will let me stay." Every eye turned to Sarah. She looked at Henry holding her son, looked at the drawing of 3 people who belonged together, looked at the restaurant full of friends and neighbors and love. A year ago, she'd been counting coins in a metal tin, wondering how to afford a single cupcake. Now she stood in her own restaurant, successful enough to close for a private party surrounded by people who cared. But the money wasn't what made her rich. "You're already family," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Have been for months. We're just making it official now." Noah cheered. Henry stood Noah still in his arms and pulled Sarah into a hug. The 3 of them stood there wrapped together while the room applauded. Mrs. Chen dabbed her eyes. "That's the sweetest thing I've ever seen." Dorothy raised her water glass. "To family. The kind you choose." Everyone drank to that. The party continued. Children devoured cake. Adults lingered over coffee. Noah dragged Henry around, showing him off to anyone who'd listen. "This is my grandpa Henry. He helped Mama make the restaurant. He's really good at racing cars." As evening settled into night, guests began to leave. Thank yous and hugs all around. Noah, exhausted, curled up on the bench seat by the window. Sarah and Henry cleaned up together in comfortable silence. Maria had gone home. The kitchen was quiet except for the sound of dishes and running water. "Sarah?" Henry dried a plate carefully. "Yeah. I need to tell you something." Sarah paused, worried. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's what I need to tell you." Henry set the plate down. "I spent 63 years chasing success, building wealth, winning, and I was miserable every single day." "Henry, let me finish." He smiled. This year, I've washed dishes. I've played with toy cars. I've learned to make ginger cookies without burning them. I've eaten dinner with people I love. And I've never been happier." Sarah's eyes filled. "We're happy to have you. You saved my life, Sarah. You and Noah. You showed me what actually matters. You saved ours too. This restaurant, this stability, that's just money. You would have found another way." Henry shook his head. "What you gave me can't be bought. You gave me purpose, family, home." Through the window, Sarah could see the street where Noah had run through the rain. The same street transformed by memory and meaning. "You know what's funny?" Sarah said. "A year ago, I thought we had nothing. I was so focused on what we lacked that I couldn't see what we had. What did you have?" "Each other. Love. The ability to be kind even when it cost us everything." Sarah smiled. "Noah taught me that. He gave away his only birthday present and somehow got everything back multiplied." Henry looked at Noah sleeping peacefully by the window. "He's remarkable. He's my mother's grandson." "Of course he is." They finished the dishes. Henry helped Sarah carry Noah to her car. She had a car now used but reliable. Henry walked them out, standing on the sidewalk as Sarah buckled Noah into his seat. "See you tomorrow?" she asked. "Breakfast shift. I'll be here at 6. Sarah laughed. "You don't have to keep coming in so early." "I want to. Where else would I be?" Sarah hugged him. Not the tentative embrace of a year ago, but the solid hug of family. "Thank you, Henry, for everything. Thank you for letting me be part of this." Sarah drove home through familiar streets. In the rearview mirror, Noah stirred, mumbling in his sleep. "Love you, Mama. Love you, Grandpa Henry." Sarah's heart swelled so full it hurt Dot. She thought about the cramped apartment they'd left behind, the water-stained ceiling, the wobbly table, the fear that had lived in her chest every day, wondering if she could provide enough. They had more now. A nicer apartment, financial security, success. But they'd been rich all along in the ways that mattered most. Back at the restaurant, Henry stood at the window where Noah had stood a year ago, watching the rain. But tonight there was no rain, just clear skies and bright stars and the warm glow of streetlights on pavement. He pulled out his phone, looking at his new wallpaper, the framed drawing. 3 stick figures, a family. His family. Henry pressed his hand to the window glass right where Noah's small palm had pressed when he'd spotted Dorothy in the rain. One act of kindness, one birthday cupcake given away. That's all it had taken to change everything. "Thank you, Rosa," Henry whispered to the night, "for teaching your daughter, for teaching him, for somehow teaching me even now." The restaurant sign glowed behind him. Rosa's Flavor. Henry smiled. The greatest gift wasn't what came in a box. It was who helped you open it, who celebrated with you, who stayed. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, a restaurant waited to feed more people tomorrow, to spread more kindness, to prove that love, when shared, multiplies instead of divides. And somewhere Henry liked to think Rosa was smiling too.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.